dance with me, move your body, 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 your legs a beat.
We did it. It took over 6 months, but we got to the projected cycle target for the S&P, 64.36, 65.22. We gapped up there Sunday night futures, 64.57. We're looking for this big summer top, and we have a jam-packed week with economic data, with earnings, with Powell. A lot to discuss in this video. This video is going to be on the markets. The Bitcoin video will be out after this, the crypto video. So be sure to check that out as well. Guys, subscribe to the channel, like the video, helps me out in the algorithm. You want to join our room, check out marketmakers.trade. That's our website. You can join our Discord straight through our website. You can join through YouTube on the members only feature. Just click the join button if you want to check out Market Makers. And if you live outside the US, check out a premier CFD exchange, SimpleFX. They help keep the lights on. If you guys want to trade these markets, check out SimpleFX, be a Market Makers VIP. I'll pin that link in the comments. Let's talk about what's going on in the ES right now, because we have mega cap earnings coming out this week on the 30th and 31st. Literally the day of Powell and the day after Powell. You got Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple all at the end of the week or middle of the week with Powell and the day after Powell. So that spells volatility. Now, you might say, well, that's 4 companies. Who cares? That's 20% of the S&P is those 4 companies, 20%. So it's a huge deal as to whether or not we push up to the higher end of the target range or if we start retracing. Because remember, I'm looking for this summer top and drop. So let's start off. Let's back up. Let's go and see what's happening in fear and greed. We are still in extreme greed. Nothing new here. This is good. This is when you start looking for tops as an extreme greed. Let's look at the Shiller PE, 10-year CAPE ratio here. Guys, you are at the second most expensive market in stock market history, 38.97. This is a huge, huge PE if you care about valuations. The only market more expensive was .com, and that got all the way up to 44. We're going to take that out, by the way. After we make this summer top, summer 10% retracement, we're going to come back up for the blow off top, and we're going to take out the 44 rating. But this is a very, very expensive market, but retail is still maxing long right now. And if you look at the VIX, got all the way down to, what do we get to here on the VIX? A low of 17. You're about 17.5 right now. This is as low as we've been going back to March of this year. Now, December, January, last year you got into the 16s, but this is a very low VIX, meaning a lot of complacency, right? The VIX is cyclical. It'll eventually spike back up when we go to do our retracement. So look at the price action. So again, big macro pattern going all the way back to the pandemic. Here's your previous 10% retracements with July tops, 11%, 10.5%. We're going to do the same somewhere in this range, pull back 10, 11%, come back up again, and then we're going to hit our market targets or cycle top targets of 71.22, 74.42 would be the next 2 targets up we'd be looking at. Simplified version, you're in the range right now, 64.33, finding resistance in our kill box here, and we're going to look for that pullback. That pullback could be to the 5800s. You know, you got to find the top before we start measuring this. But if we just pull back 10% from where we are, retrace, I should say 10%. I mean, 10% is the 382. Super bullish retracement, if that's what it does. That's 58.22. And of course, 10% or past 10%, if you look somewhere between 382 and 50%, that's down at 56.33. And again, we had that gap on the daily time frame, the capitulation gap at 57.08. So this is all going to come down to, let's move our retracement up to match the candlestick. This is all going to come down to where we actually top in this range, 64.36, 65.22. Let's just call it 64.30, 65.30. It's easier to say. So in this $100 range here, if we top out in this $100 range, we're going to see where this thing drops to. And guys, this trade will be great to be in for a short, for a drop. And of course, this trade will be excellent to be in for a massive move to the upside, to these upside targets. So those are 2 trades I am most interested in right now. You know, what's the outlier here? Like I said, we have Powell this week on Wednesday when he determines whether or not to cut interest rates. He's not expected to cut interest rates. Now, Trump very famously was just there visiting with Powell, visiting with the Fed, and he said he believes Powell's going to do the right thing soon. I mean, to me, that means September. If Powell doesn't cut, but he throws the market a bone and says some really dovish comments like, we anticipate cutting rates later this year. If he gets more specific, we're happy with the inflation trajectory. We want to see rates get reduced this year. I mean, guys, expect volatility. This price can easily go up. And people are asking me, could we just keep pushing up? Like, let's say Powell's dovish. We just keep pushing up that Shiller PE, pushing towards some higher level targets. That's possible. It's an outlier, right? It's a wild card. I mean, look, if Powell cuts, I've been saying this over and over, if Powell actually cuts, that's a surprise cut for the market. I think that's hyper bullish for crypto. I think it's hyper bullish for the market, at least for another short term push up, and those numbers could be substantial, guys. But my base case is the same base case I've been giving you since January, a summer rally, summer top, and that's literally what we're doing now. And a lot of people get really FOMO, they get really euphoric at the point of the top. So my base case is my base case unless we start breaking up above 6,500 with some consistency and holding above it, moving up to the next level target. But when you look at the screen, I mean, this has been here all year. This is exactly where I wanted us to be. And this is where we are now with these key events, with earnings, with Powell, all this week. And of course, tariffs officially kicking in August 1st. So we'll see how it all shakes out this week. We look at this on an hourly time frame. Got to our projections. You look at this from a support resistance level, 6,400. This is ES S&P futures. You want to see this hold. This gives you a nice cluster base here on the hourly time frame. Again, smaller time frame. But there's your gap up you had in Sunday futures. Came back down. And again, I anticipate volatility and chopping as we go along here. We have a lot of earnings this week. Again, with the catalyst, with Powell and everybody else. We had our excellent breakout from our triple top. Right, third top gave us the big steep shakeout candle, and then the rally up on top of the Wyckoff range, a Livermore pivot to the upside, and we're getting closer and closer in that range. That next level up, by the way, is 65.08. And then you have 65.29, okay? So if we continue this trajectory, this grind up higher, this is going to be interesting because you have to think about this. At least I do. I like to play this in my mind. You know, if Powell tosses the market a bone, what if Meta, Microsoft, and even Apple, even though they're getting beat up over the non-AI narrative because they're not really investing a lot in that, but what if Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon all crush it on the earnings? And what if Apple has excellent cash flow? I mean, again, you can see all this move up, right? So just watch these upper level targets, watch your trajectory clearly on an hourly time frame, obviously on the daily and weekly, you're in a bullish uptrend, right? Everything is up because it's the strongest generational rally in 30 years. We look at this from our cyclical perspective. We had our doji on the day of the cycle change and then a couple candles up. The next cycle is August 8th. And again, Powell on the 30th. So let's see what happens. We could very well be putting in our topping structure for the retracement in this window, okay? Between the 1st and the 8th, somewhere in here. Got to get through Powell. Got to see what he does. Got to get through these earnings, but expect some volatility. Could easily be some volatility, especially with strong earnings and a dovish Powell. We look at the spider, 637.56. We got, remember, my target was 642 to 654. If the spider actually traded during futures hours, you would have already achieved that target, but you don't, right? That's the downside of ETFs. It's why I prefer futures. But ETF, this is still pushing up 637.65. We'll get in that window, I believe. That window is 642, 655 for the summer rally, okay? So let's go ahead and move forward. Looking at triple Qs, they've easily achieved target. We had 559.37, high end 587. You're at 568. Looking for our volatility in here, topping range, get through mega cap tech earnings, and then I'm looking for the summer retracement, right? Again, doesn't matter what asset you look at when it's indice related. Here's 2023 on the Qs, 11.76%. For July top, and here's your July top in 2024, 16% retracement. You're going to get a nice retracement in the Qs once we top out and then do that retracement and then accelerate to the upside for our blow-off cycle top. We look at NQ, NASDAQ futures, again, achieve summer rally target, 23,501, nicely up here. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to find your cycle top, but see, the retracements keep coming up as candle actions come up. You're going to find your cycle top on the NQs and get your drop. Why? Because you did it the last 2 years in a row. I think you're going to do it a third year, right? 17% last year, 12% the year before. You're going to find a cycle top, get through mega cap tech, get through PAL. You're going to come down, right? Cycle summer top, I should say, and then you're going to pull back up for the upside and achieve these higher level targets, 27K, 28 and change, right? Those are my two higher level targets for the NASDAQ futures after you get this nice, beautiful retracement. You look at this on the 8-hour time frame. I mean, look, you know, if you're day trading and you want to trade these little swings back and forth, these couple 100-point swings, have at it. This chews up so many people trying to trade price action like that. I'm looking for a top to form at resistance. Could be right here, 23,913. Looking for some type of top. Maybe a classic double top would be beautiful. Get that second top lower than the first top. Get your nice short on, and then let this thing fall down. Top out, fall down, and get our summer retracement. Okay, that's what I'll be looking for. Could be forming here. We don't know. I mean, we're 2 days away from PAL. So we'll see how this shakes out. But that's what I'm looking at, guys. If we look at Tesla, still in our triangle. Still neutral bias, still coiling. Again, if the markets were to rally with PAL with a surprise cut or super dovish PAL, look for Tesla to break out of this, and you want to see it back test this area as well. You really would want to get above 357. You're at 324. Get above 357. Your upside would be 426, 462. And again, that would anticipate a rally off of PAL, right? Like further big push up off of PAL. This can easily break to the downside. Again, we get that retracement. So I'm looking at these accumulation levels again, because remember the last Tesla trade we shared, we got in down here, right? Got in down here for a 70+% rally to the upside. So I'm looking at these levels of support of 274. And of course, the bottom of that range is 217. So you want to see what happens here in this coil if you break out to the upside or break to the downside and see where your support holds. If we look at Hood, the reason I'm looking at Hood, I was asked this today in the Discord. Why am I looking at Hood? Because since the April 7th terrified markets, you did a 282% rally. You came right up to target at 99.62, got just above it at 113, 280% rally. So why is it worth looking at Hood? Because if my TA plays out, we make the summer top, we get the summer drop. Just look at retracement levels of what Hood could do, just drawing this to the current all-time high. Let's just look at it. Super bullish, 382, 50%, 618 retracement. All totally normal, by the way, right? All these retracement levels are normal. 382 is hyper bullish. That is a 28.5% drawdown just to the 382. And if it did a 50% retracement, 37% drawdown. That's why I'm looking at Hood, okay? Because I want to get through these earnings. But guess what? When is Hood's earnings? They are on the day of PAL, just like some of the mega cap tech, okay? On the day of PAL. So this is why it's important to watch this range. Watch 120 to the upside. You want to hold above 99.62 here. You're at 105 and change. So you're in a little bit of a coil. I want to see which way this breaks because I'm expecting a nice move in Hood once this thing tops out. Look at MSTR. People are requesting MSTR. Now, MSTR is tricky, guys, because obviously it's kind of the stock market proxy for Bitcoin. You look at your basic TA, you have a low, you have a higher low, you're trying to hold a higher low. If you watch my Bitcoin videos, my crypto videos, you know I expect Bitcoin to go to 132. What ratio that means of change in MSTR if Bitcoin goes to 132? I don't know what ratio that would be, but what I'm looking at is the Fibonacci resistance and seeing how it adhered to it right here at the 1618 at 410, sold back off the 357, and of course we hit 451 at 200%, and that sold back off to below just about $400 again. The next key resistance level that I'm using that's tracking beautifully here is 517 if you can flip 451. Does that mean it gets there if Bitcoin gets to 132? No, I don't know if it gets there just because Bitcoin gets to 132. Does that mean it can't just crush it and take it out? Of course it could. I'm just sharing with you the support and resistance levels. The key support level is going to be 350 right down here, okay? That's going to be your key support level. You lose that, you're coming back down into that 300 and change range. But so far, you have a nice bullish trend. Flip 450, next target's 517. That's what I'm looking at on MSTR. Guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy your trading week. Pay attention to the news. Follow me on X. Hope to see you in the Discord. Talk to everybody soon.